July 7th, 2018 was the worst hangover I've probably ever had in my life. I felt like sick to my stomach. And luckily for me, I had people come down to visit, people I wasn't on the best of terms with at the time, but it was like helping me heal, And that morning I went to breakfast and I was so sick, like I couldn't even like sit upright. The food looked terrible to me. I remember being told, you gotta have a drink, like get a michelada, like it's gonna help you. Your body's fiending for the alcohol. It would have been easy for me to say yes, like easy for me to pretend it was just like a bad night, bad weekend, and easy to step back into the cycle that literally almost killed me the night before. But I didn't. I said, I made a promise never to drink again. And this person said back to me, your secret is safe with me. That was the moment where I made the real choice, the biggest choice in my life. I'm never drinking again. And the cycle not only has to stop with me, but it ends with me. I realized that I didn't have to die to break the cycle. I had to live. Staying sober wasn't the hard part. Facing reality was the hard part. I had to grieve the friendships that were never real. I had to accept that some people only loved the version of me that destroyed himself for their entertainment. I had to learn that I was an introvert, not a party king. I had to sit with loneliness long enough to find something better than noise. I didn't just rebuild my life, I rebuilt my identity. I rebuilt everything that I had broken about myself. I put him back together. I lost the weight. I lost physical weight, emotional weight, spiritual weight. I built a career, rising through the ranks every single year. I built a business from scratch. I built a marriage with a woman who loved me for who I really was. I became the supporter I never thought I could be in a lot of people's lives. I didn't just survive sobriety. I lived my way into a future the broken version of me probably couldn't have ever have imagined. And if I could sit across from that guy, that boy at breakfast, who's struggling, who's hungover, July 7th, 2018, I'd look at him and say, congratulations, you just saved your own life. The more years I spend sober, the further away I get from the fantasy world, and the closer I get to the truth, the closer I get to the real me, the same me that I buried a long time ago just to make other people feel comfortable, just to get the approval of people I thought were my friends. But I buried that person, the old me, so deep that I kind of forgot like who I was. Not to mention that my memory is like clouded from shame and guilt from the years I spent drinking.
Self-reflection. He had a time to stop and look back and realize everything wasn't as good as I thought it was. He took off the rose-colored glasses and realized, I did make some mistakes. I might have crossed some enemies. I might have done some things that I regret. And so that's probably where that shame comes from. And that's sort of like, I need to atone, I need to repent.
My dad brought over this basket or this case full of old pictures that I hadn't seen in years. And when I went through these pictures, kind of reminded me of not everything was the way I thought it was. And the closer I get to the truth, the closer I get to that same kid I used to be. He was broken, he was weird, he was lost. He was me before I started hiding.
When I think of Marco, I think of all the things that he's had to overcome, like through life.
If I were to put a name on the thing I love most about August, is that he is always willing to learn and to change. And not change his morals, not change his standards, not change his personality.
He takes criticism and he changes his path and adjusts his path accordingly.
He grew confidence that, that he's, in my perspective, should have always had since I've met him, because he's always had the qualities to be confident and move forward and not give a shit what anybody else thinks.
Basically, the words that he says it with his fucking chest. And so, that's when it comes to, perseverance, dedication.
Growing up, I was ashamed of myself. I was ashamed to be this Mexican kid, the last of our last name,
the last of my grandpa's lineage, and I couldn't speak Spanish. That's why I was ashamed. I carried so much hatred in my heart, so much self-hatred, so much ignorance, that I lost a connection to my culture. And the older I get, the more I realize avoiding was the problem, and it's always been my problem. Avoiding my culture was almost the root of these identity issues. You could see that not being able to speak my native tongue, that's what started making me doubt who I was. I felt like this. People are telling me I'm that. So instead of running from it, these days, I'm leaning into it and I'm embracing it in my own way. That's why I started wearing the cowboy hat. You know, it started as something that I felt like I always wanted to do, but I was like, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's not gonna be understood. Then a friend of mine ended up having a bachelor party and it was one of the themes, and I said, it's an excuse to buy the hat now, and I don't take it off, and that's why I rock the poncho, you know? That's why I got the sleeve. I don't have the glove on me right now. I lost the glove, but that's why I wear the glove, right? I'm trying to reconnect. It's not about trying to be traditional. It's about honoring who I am on my own terms, in my own way. And yes, the more I do that, the less understood I feel. But maybe that's the point. Maybe I wasn't made to be understood by everybody, and maybe I was only made to be understood by myself. A lot of people think alcohol is what tore my family apart. But the truth is, pride did. Avoidance did. Alcohol was just like a supplement. It was the mask. It was the distraction. It was the tool that we used. And that's why my dedication to sobriety has never been about avoiding a drink or the taste or the smell. It's been about avoiding the lie. That's what my sobriety is about, avoiding lying to myself. It's about staying grounded in what's real and not escaping when it hurts.
When Marco got sober, there was too many factors that went into, all right, I need to move on. I need to make a change. And so when that finally hit and that realization hit, I didn't really feel like, that's something that he was going to go back to. So, which was pretty nice to feel, because, with all the frustration and everything, trying to be there for Marco and nothing working, it felt like there was a little breath of fresh air with that.
Yeah, I lost the drinking, buddy. Yeah, like drinking with Marco was super fun, and it was always like a fun time. But at the end of the day, it was something detrimental to one of my best friends. Like, why would I want that? And now even sober, like nothing's really changed. I could sit there and get drunk as hell in front of him. He's not going to drink, but he's still going to like match the same energy as he was. He just won't get like Marco eyes or anything crazy. But at the end of the day, like I looked at it as a better thing. Like especially with anybody, like if you're going to remove a substance from your life, especially something that you like used a lot, but realizing that you can't handle that because it becomes an issue for you, that takes a lot more like discipline, courage, and strength than anything else.
Building your life from there and doing it sober and going through the transition of sobriety, which I don't think people really can grasp, like how fucking hard that is. Basically having to relearn how you did life from like the past, some amount of years that you were drinking, and then like having to relearn life all together.
So by the time you finish this documentary, you're gonna have something new. Did I Go Dumb Deluxe? 7 new songs on top of the 7 new songs I just gave you. So 20 songs total on the deluxe. One song is an intro that explains where my love-hate relationship with alcohol started. There are 3 additional songs that go deeper into the cycle, but the final 3 are the epilogue. It shows what happens next in the story after I broke the cycle of drinking. What's next in the chapter and in the story of becoming August Wilde.
His music is kind of going back to explain his past, kind of like a remembrance, and like kind of a clear up, like, hey, this is what I actually went through. So I think now he's going back. He's not going backwards, but explaining himself better of what he was actually going through in the past. And I think his music's going to catch up to him, and then he'll start living more in his personality and his artistry in one.
The Mistake. I recorded this song a year ago. It was produced and recorded by Jordan Kyle. And at the time, I was writing Did I Go Dumb, the first one, Did I Go Dumb Last Night. But this was like the darker side to it. But I just kind of let it sit in the vault, and it wasn't until I was making this album where I said, man, like, this would really fit the narrative of the song, the narrative of the album. And, you know, I called the song The Mistake because that's exactly what I believed I was. Not just a person who messed up, but living proof of somebody else's mistake, right? I was born into dysfunction, and I was born into pain that existed long before I did. This song describes the root. This is where it all started. My love-hate relationship with alcohol, with family, with myself. And when you grow up in a house full of silence and shouting, you stop asking what's wrong with them, and you start believing that something's wrong with you. And that's what I was doing. This song is everything I was afraid to say when I was younger. But if I'm gonna tell the truth, then I gotta tell the whole truth. And it's ugly, because when you leave pain unspoken, it can turn into poison. And before I broke the cycle, I was the cycle.
I kept in those times when he was at his lowest, I would keep that in mind and just tell myself, one day he's going to figure it out. He's going to figure out how loved he is, how cared about he is, and how much he's not actually a joke. And when it finally clicks for him, I can't wait to see how much of a better place he's going to be in.
I'm good. This is track 18, and this is the first time I really said out loud, I'm good. Not perfect, not painless, I'm good. It was the day after. It's inspired by the day after I got sober, and it's like a breakup song, but I'm directing it towards alcohol. Because for years I thought healing would look like everyone finally understanding me, but the truth is they don't have to understand me. I'm not for everybody. I used to break myself into like pieces just trying to keep people around me, but these days I could dance on those pieces, like I say in the song. I let that old version of me bleed out and die, because I needed to make room for who I was becoming. August. Some people fell off in terms of their connection to me, right? Some people threw dirt on my name, but I didn't bury myself with it this time. I grew. This song isn't about revenge, it's redemption. It's me finally learning how to love myself, even if I'll never be understood, even if I have to walk alone, because I don't need alcohol or anybody involved in that part of my past in my life in order for me to live. All I need is faith. And today, for me, that's enough.
I think it was just a lot more self-respect in his personality. His personality didn't change all too much. More mature, obviously, but he was still like the same like guy that you could talk to, you could be comfortable around, still made jokes, still did everything. Like he's still the like dude that that's gonna make all the jokes and whatnot. But he has a lot more self-respect and is much more mature.
The Mirror. Track 19 is probably one of the most difficult songs I've ever had to write and record. This one's tough because it's not just a song, it's a goodbye that I never wanted to write. It's about watching someone I love go through the same cycle that I barely survived. The drinking, the lies, the denial, the manipulation, the blame. And as much as I tried to be patient, as much as I tried to show grace, there comes a point where love without accountability just becomes enabling. And it's crazy for me to say that because I'm sure Other people used to say that about me. That's why I call the song The Mirror. I used to be the victim. I used to say the problem was everybody else, but deep down I knew until I faced my reflection, I wouldn't ever have the opportunity to heal. And that's what this song is. It's me holding up a mirror to one of the people who gave me life, but refuses to choose their own life. And I'm not saying these things out of hate. I say it because I know what happens when you never face the truth. And I say it because I still love this person, even if I have to love them from a distance.
Yesterday, we got the makeup done, the clown makeup done, the Tears of a Clown makeup for the video shoot. We went out, nitty gritty shot it. And the song, as you guys have probably heard, it was a lot of like a lot of death stuff. I went to bed. I remember at 12 on the dot, I said goodnight to my wife. She was staying out in Sedona. And at 3 minutes, I'll never forget this, 3 minutes go by and I hear a knock, like 5 or 6 knocks, boom, 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 boom. I was like, well, what the fuck? So I grabbed my phone because we have a security system and there was no one at the front door. I checked the backyard, there was no one in the backyard. It wasn't like the wind, it wasn't a door. I came to the conclusion that it was a spirit essentially saying, hey, cut it out. All that talk about like death, knock it off. I think that was a perfect way of like saying, okay, let's start realigning our purpose. Let's start detaching from the album in terms of like the way I feel about myself, the way I feel about this era.
My Love. The final track of the album is a song called My Love. It was produced and recorded by Jordan Kyle. And we made the song at an artist camp. Like we made the song in 30 minutes. He was producing it right there. And I like freestyled the hook and I was like, man, like why is this coming so naturally to me? What is this song about? And then I realized where I say like, my love, my love, don't fall in love with me. It's like, why am I saying that? And why am I putting this on the end of the album? And that's when I realized the outro of the album is really the intro to the mindset I had immediately after drinking. Yes, I had gotten sober and I got my life together. I moved out of Fresno and all that. But once I turned back to like a player almost, I was walking around with the mentality of, hey, don't fall in love with me. Don't do it. And maybe it's a defense mechanism, or maybe it was a defense mechanism at the time, but that's what it was. And it might be an outro, but honestly, it's like a cliffhanger of a song. So that's My Love.
Realignment is about why, remembering our why. Why are we doing this? Why are we making this project? What is our why? How does it fit into the bigger picture of what I'm trying to do? And the bigger picture is always about the message, and the message has to be about the truth, being honest. The truth was this is how I felt at the time, but it's not how I feel today. And the way I feel today is that life is good. It's challenging. There are things that are constantly being thrown our way, but life is good as long as I am breathing.
This album is a story, and that story is a cycle that's rooted in one question. Did I go dumb again? And the truth is, yes, I did. Over and over for years. I chased escape instead of the truth. I looked for love in the chaos. I called pain a personality trait. And I let a bottle speak louder than my heart. But somewhere in that spiral, on my way to rock bottom, I found a mirror. I found a mic, and I found the courage to say things out loud that only used to live in my head. These songs, this documentary, they're not just about sobriety. Because if you listen to them, obviously they're not about sobriety. It's about sobriety of self. It's about removing everything that numbed me, that lied to me, that made me believe I wasn't worth saving.
We're going to find a way to figure out our problems, no matter what it is. If you're going through something like addiction, debt, jobs, like trying to find a job, you will get through it as so long as you believe in yourself and you put in the work day in and day out. Okay, some days you're not going to be able to do as much, but you got to show up every single time. I'm very grateful for something in this universe that gave me the desire to want to spread a message. Like, regardless of however many people are listening, I hope that I help somebody.
The deluxe wasn't an afterthought. It was the whole point. A prologue to where it all began, a deeper dive into the drinking cycle, and an epilogue that shows what comes next when the bottle's gone, but the emptiness is still there. I don't have all the answers. I don't, and I'm still learning how to live without numbing. I'm still figuring out how to forgive people who hurt me and how to forgive myself in the process. I'm still figuring out everything about life. Of all things I figured out, I do know this. The truth will cost you everything fake in your life. And the truth saved my life.
My heart is still heavy. Not because I'm holding on to what I did while I was drinking, but because now I see what alcohol is still doing to people that I love. This album, this whole thing, is my final goodbye. Not just to alcohol, but to the man that I used to be, to the mistakes I made, the cycles I kept myself in. For years, I held on to shame, regret, and this deep hatred for myself. Like if I punished myself enough, I'd eventually become clean. But getting married in October 2024 to the love of my life changed something. That day, I looked in the mirror and I realized I'm not that guy anymore. I'm not the same person who would wake up drunk and just keep the party going. In fact, I'm so far from that person. It's like he's a story I used to tell just to feel something. Just to prove, hey, look, I had a life before this. Sobriety to me was never about alcohol. It's about loving reality. It's about choosing presence over escaping. I'm not here to tell people not to use substances. That's not my lane. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for the people who want to face life as it is. For those who want the courage or the tools or just a voice in their ear reminding them that they're not crazy for wanting something real. I'm here to remind people what their purpose is. I'm here to remind people that you don't have to lie in order to live. I'm here to tell people that the truth is still what is most important in this world, regardless of what our political figures do or what celebrities do. I'm not trying to use my influence for bad. I'm not trying to use my influence for selfish gains. I am trying to remind people that it's not all doom and gloom and that we can take the power back by ourselves as long as we live within our purpose and we live within the truth and we are honest with ourselves. I was never addicted to alcohol. I was addicted to fantasy. I drank to avoid truth, but now I love the truth. I love life, the ugly part, the uncertain parts, the beautiful mess of it all. That's what sobriety gave me. Not control, not perfection, but reality. And I've never felt more alive in my life. 7 years later, I've buried that man that I used to be, that boy that I used to be. But I carry his memory, not as a weight, but as a witness. I don't stay sober to punish myself. I stay sober to honor the version of me who finally decided he deserved more than fantasy. Sobriety isn't my brand, it's my alignment. My reminder that I don't need to escape life to love it. But the story's not over. There's still so much to do. There's a lot of dreams I have to reach. And as long as I breathe, I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep going. If you're out there struggling with escapism, I hope you follow my journey and that I'm able to teach you something. But I have to be honest with you. I can't save you. Only you can. My main job, my main purpose is to remind you that I'm not your savior. You are. And you are enough.